Hi, this is one person's experience with Lyme disease, not to be taken as expert advice. Disclaimer: I am not an expert. An expert is a person who knows more and more about less and less until he knows absolutely everything there is to know about nothing at all. If you or a loved one are not affected by Lyme disease, you will be soon. The CDC is saying that approximately 500,000 Americans are getting diagnosed for Lyme disease each year. Lyme disease is a tick-borne immunological disease that started in the 1970s in Lyme, Connecticut. What's the big deal about Lyme, Connecticut? Lyme, Connecticut is only 12 miles from Plum Island, which is home to the FDA's Tick Research Laboratory. It sounds like quite a big coincidence that a tick-borne infection that is brand new would appear 12 miles away from a laboratory that studies tick-borne illnesses. If you want to read the history of the government's wacky bioweapons experiments on Plum Island, you can read either the book Lab 257 or the newer book Bitten. Suffice it to say, we are still trying to get answers in 2019 and still trying to hold people accountable for this horrific bioweapons leak that has infected at least 10% of the country. Lyme disease became a ballooning epidemic in the 1990s, and the CDC's way of fixing that epidemic was to change the test that you get. Now, thanks to the new test, just about everyone shows up for negative for Lyme disease. When a patient shows up with all the symptoms of Lyme disease, they are told that there is no Lyme in your county, therefore you don't have Lyme. This slide shows how Lyme disease may have spread from Plum Island northwest. This shows the path of the migration of birds on the eastern seaboard. And this is the maps from 1996 to 2014 showing how Lyme has spread across the country. The story of Lyme usually goes something like this. The patient suffers for days or weeks or months or even years, has many symptoms, and is told from the doctor that they can't find anything wrong. Finally, the patient will find a list of Lyme symptoms online, discover that they have 40 or 45 of the 60 symptoms of Lyme, and come into the doctor victorious, ready to share with the doctor their discovery and ready to be treated for Lyme disease. The doctor will usually respond by saying, I don't think it's Lyme. Lyme is generally overdiagnosed, and I think you have 3 or 4 separate conditions. You probably have a combination of Sjogren's disease, lupus, and hyperthyroidism. I'm not sure about you, but if I have 40 out of 60 symptoms of Lyme, and no doctor believes me, I'm going to go and find a Lyme doctor, a specialist, who will find something and be helpful with something, and accept the inconvenient truth that yes, Lyme is a pandemic. The trouble is that a Lyme doctor usually doesn't accept medical insurance. He is usually targeted for career suicide by the FDA and the CDC and the AMA. He is usually what most people would consider as a quack or a conspiracy theorist. But don't forget, many medical scientists and doctors eventually become conspiracy theorists, especially after they retire or after they get their Nobel Prize and can speak their mind on how they really think the world is. A Lyme doctor will probably run hundreds of dollars worth of tests that are not covered by insurance, but he feels are needed to treat you specifically. Mainly what the doctor will offer is a course of antibiotics, not just 1 or 2 weeks of antibiotics like you get for a cold, but more like 2 or 3 months worth of antibiotics. This is because Lyme is a spirochete. It is a bacteria that has the ability to hide and go dormant for long periods of time, just like a virus. It can embed itself in the bladder, in your bones, and in your joints, so that antibiotics can't even touch it. Antibiotics are very good at keeping the symptoms of Lyme at bay, and may even permanently destroy the Lyme if they are given early enough. But the bad part is that antibiotics are very hard on the body, and they kill off parts of you that will never return again. The parts of your body that antibiotics kill are called probiotics. Probiotics are good bacteria that live in you and on you. Probiotics make up what is called the microbiome, a microscopic world that controls many aspects of your physiology, including digestion, immunity, healing, cravings, instincts, and even our personalities. Take your microbiome and trade it with someone else, and it will be like getting a personality transplant. The microbiome is what drives our machines. When you are nervous or get a hunch or pee your pants from fear, that was your microbiome. The microbiome is very similar to what the movie Star Wars calls the Force. In the movie Star Wars, the Force is made up of microscopic life forms called midi-chlorians. The microbiome is all the bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live in you and on you. You have 10 trillion cells in your body, human cells, but you have 100 trillion microbiome cells. In other words, not human cells that live in and on you. Therefore, you are outnumbered by alien species of a factor of 10 to 1. The microbiome only weighs about 2 pounds, but it's extremely diverse and multitudinous. It is estimated that there are 50,000 species of bacteria which live in us, performing extremely complex tasks that science is only beginning to understand. They are finding that our good bacteria are essential to our ability to stay healthy. Without these good bacteria, we would die. And as a matter of fact, NASA takes these good bacteria to space. There are also bad bacteria in our microbiome. Yeast, which is an evil member of our microbiome, causes sugar cravings. As long as you have an overabundance of yeast in your bowels, you will crave sugar. Yeast creates a chemical that it gives to your brain that tells your brain to go and get you more sugar, whether you are hungry or not. If you go on a diet, yeast will really go nuts and your cravings will increase. But once you're past 3 or 4 days of dieting, the yeast dies off and the cravings go away. If you suffer from Lyme disease, the Lyme spirochetes will become an evil member of the microbiome. And much like yeast, they have to be attacked and starved and smoked out of your system. 3 months extended antibiotics are the first step. However, antibiotics indiscriminately kill good and bad bacteria together. The extended course of antibiotics will kill the Lyme, but they will also make your microbiome get out of balance. You want to have a healthy microbiome with lots of good bacteria so that Lyme and yeast get outnumbered and hopefully go into hiding. So what can you do to restore your microbiome after an extended course of antibiotics? Well, believe it or not, you can actually buy a new microbiome. However, this is a very gross procedure called a stool transplant that I would only consider if I was deathly ill. A more pleasant path to restoring gut health is called probiotics, or good bacteria. Probiotics were once a major component in our diets. Before refrigeration, many foods were pickled or fermented naturally. Pickling or fermenting raw is done with the help of bacteria. When you eat naturally fermented foods, you are eating good bacteria and restoring a healthy microbiome in your system. An example of naturally fermented food is the old-fashioned pickles in the big barrels that you used to get at the general store. Another example is sauerkraut, as long as it has not been canned or processed. For a fermented food to have beneficial bacteria, it must not be treated, boiled, or pasteurized. It has to be pickled raw. Pickling vegetables raw is a very easy procedure for you to do yourself. All you need is 1 tablespoon of salt and 1 cup of water. You can take it and cover some chopped vegetables to the top with brine. Then simply put a coffee filter over the top of the jar with a rubber band or a ring and let it sit for a week or 2, and then eat it. Every culture around the world makes naturally fermented foods, like this churro set, these pickled apples that Jews eat at Passover time on crackers. There is also kimchi and sauerkraut. Unfortunately, the United States does not pickle much food anymore naturally. It tends to pasteurize and sanitize everything so that bacteria are lacking in our diets. Our microbiome health suffers as a result. If you are taking antibiotics for an extended period of time for Lyme disease, you should probably load up on probiotic foods, like whole fat plain yogurt, unsweetened. You can add your own sweetener. There is also a drink which is loaded with probiotics called kefir. And my favorite source of probiotics, which is kombucha, which is also loaded with B vitamins and digestive enzymes. This gingerade tastes like ginger ale, and you can make it yourself. In addition to replacing all of the good bacteria that is killed by the antibiotics, it is also very beneficial to starve out the bad bacteria, to starve out the yeast in our intestines and in our body. The best way of starving candida or yeast is a diet that is low in sugar. And another way to prevent the bad bacteria from getting into our bloodstream through cracks in our intestines is through a gluten-free diet or a low inflammation diet. Once we have good probiotics, good bacteria in our intestine, they will want to be fed. Good probiotics want to live in an environment of prebiotics. Prebiotics are vegetables and grains that have lots of fiber. Prebiotics can actually be seen when you pick a fruit or a vegetable, as in this example with the blueberries. The blueberries put out a white coating of prebiotics on their skin, which helps them to stay fresh longer. If you've ever noticed, if you wash your vegetables and then put them away into the refrigerator, they go bad twice as fast than if you had not washed your vegetables. You should try to eat vegetables that are unwashed if you can. While it is a great idea to eat your probiotics, it is very important if you are on Lyme disease and taking antibiotics for a prolonged period of time to boost that probiotic intake with a pill form probiotic. These have billions of organisms in each pill. This variety, Thrive, is, in our opinion, the best one, and we have seen it have dramatic results on people whose diet was a junk food diet. We have seen them crave good for you foods after taking this pill. It is also very important if you have a prolonged immunological disease like Lyme to take vitamin C every day. Vitamin C levels in your body go down when you are sick. They go down when you are stressed out, and they go down when you are worn out or tired. In other words, your vitamin C levels will drop dramatically while your body is fighting Lyme. So it is important to replace that vitamin C because humans are among the only animals that cannot create their own vitamin C. They need to get vitamin C from their environment. That is why it is called an essential nutrient, because we cannot make our own. And by the way, if you are in the hospital, bring your own vitamin C. Make sure you take vitamin C, 500 milligrams, at least twice a day. Taking more than 500 milligrams is a waste of time, as your body cannot process more than 500 milligrams every 6 hours if taken orally. If you have friends or family in the hospital, bring them vitamin C, because their vitamin C levels tank while they are in the hospital. Lyme doctors also ask patients to take vitamin D. This again is because Lyme is an immunological disease, and vitamin D3 helps restore the immune system and helps the immune system to fight off infection. Zinc is also prescribed by Lyme doctors because zinc kills bacteria and viruses. B12 is also prescribed by Lyme doctors in order to help fight against Lyme and help restore our energy levels. They are also big on their patients taking fish oil. And finally, as an anti-inflammatory, we are told to take turmeric. If you want to help kill the Lyme and kill other viruses, people often use oregano oil. For the same purpose, Lyme doctors ask their patients to take cemento. And finally, the weirdest idea has to do with the fact that Lyme disease often runs away and hides. One of the places it hides is up in the bladder wall. Because of this, it makes sense to use something like wasabi, which is an antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, in order to gas the spirochetes out of the bladder walls. Finally, it is important to get rest. A 30-minute nap during the day really goes a long way to restoring someone who is fighting Lyme disease. More than 30 minutes can make you groggy. Also, sleeping too long in the morning can make you more groggy, more achy, and more tired. A hot shower first thing in the morning is very helpful in order to get the joints moving. And an Epsom salt bath 2 to 3 times a week really helps with soreness, achiness, and stiffness. It also helps with the overall immune system. So in review, the things you can do for Lyme disease are antibiotics for 1 to 3 months, taken with probiotics to replace the good bacteria that the antibiotics kill while they're killing the Lyme, fermented foods to help restore gut health, low sugar diet to starve out the bad bacteria and yeast that try to take advantage of you killing off all the good bacteria with the antibiotics, a gluten-free diet which will reduce inflammation in your gut and stop things from getting through cracks in your intestine into your blood and causing sickness and infection, drinking lots of water, taking probiotic pills, taking digestive enzyme pills, taking vitamins C, D3, B12, and zinc daily, also taking fish oil and turmeric daily. To kill the spirochete Lyme, we recommend oregano oil, cemento, and wasabi, and taking care with nap, sleep, and Epsom salt baths. Well, that's it. I hope you feel better, and God bless.